What's going on, everybody? This is my first video on the YouTube channel, and I think I'm just going to go with what's relevant now because I started to think it, but that's my problem is I've overthunk it, if that's a word, and it's basically why I've delayed doing something like this because you want everything to be so perfect, right? But the best way to learn and the best way to execute is just on the job, and you have to get going, and I haven't gotten going, so that's what I'm doing now. And then we'll tweak it along the way to basically bring together all the ideas I've ever had. So here we go. On today's spinning backlick, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background every time I bring up something I think that's relevant to my career or my life. Spinning Backlick is a weekly show that we do on MMA Junkie where we unpack the latest news, results, and look forward to anything that's happened within a week. We do it every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and it's on our YouTube channel for MMA Junkie. Remember, this is separate. This is my own YouTube channel, but I work for Junkie, and that's my first priority. So that's youtube.com/MMA Junkie video. Like and subscribe when you see me there, or anything that you see there, because we have a quality team. And all right, and another thing I have to watch out for is my tangents. I drift off. I got to cut that out. Stay on point. Okay, we asked the question on today's episode, and it was a repeat of something we asked last week. So going into this past Saturday, the question was, how catastrophic would it be if Brandon Moreno were to lose? None of us really thought that might happen. He was facing Loney Kavanaugh, who was brought in on 3 weeks' notice, who is way less experienced than Brandon Moreno, probably has 1/3 the fights of Brandon Moreno. He was fighting in Mexico, where there's altitude, where there's all different types of conditions, air quality, food, water, where you have to go and adjust, right? And then going back to the 3 weeks notice, it was just like the deck was stacked against him, against Brandon Moreno, who's from Mexico. Maybe he's from Tijuana, not exactly Mexico City, but still, he's from the country. I'm sure he's got contacts everywhere. He can get there early, adjust, and be acclimated. Plus, he's fought in that arena, I think, 4 times. The UFC's been there 8 times, and I think he's been there probably at the top of the bill all 4. He's 1-3. So, didn't go well for him, and I didn't think we were going to revisit it, but we did. And so the guys basically said it was catastrophic. But I want to clear things up. The guys can speak on their own. They're grown men. I think what we meant was catastrophic in terms of what the standard is for Brandon Moreno, what he set for himself. He is a champion. Right now he's a former champion, but he's been a champion 2 times. He's been a champion also at LFA before it became... LFA. It used to be RFA. It became LFA. And so he was a champion there, WFF. So he's got belts. And he's recaptured the UFC belt as well. What he hasn't had is this long run, right? Like Demetrius Johnson, the longest running flyweight champion ever, 11 title defenses. Alexandre Pantoja had 4, if I'm not mistaken, before he... What was it he did? He broke his arm? Or on that fall against Joshua Van. So Brandon has been probably at least within the top 4, we call him the Mount Rushmore of Flyweights, but he hasn't had runs like those 2. And I imagine once you're at the top like that, that's all you aspire to do. It was catastrophic in terms of that ain't happening anytime soon. He's already behind the next contender, Taira, who beat Brandon Moreno. Controversially, they say, early stoppage, I don't know. Late last year, 2025. He's already behind him because Taira is going to fight Joshua Van. He's behind Kyoji Horiguchi, who's now, I think, 2-0, 3-0 since coming back to the UFC. And he's been a killer. He was 7-1 or something like that in the UFC the first time around. Then he went outside the UFC and did all kinds of great work, winning belts at bantamweight and flyweight. And now he's back making noise. Then you got Manel Kopp, who could very well have fought Joshua Van already, or might at some point if he gets his hand raised against Taira. So that's 3 names. And then there's Alexandre Pantoja himself. Not Alexandre Pantoja himself, who, again, broke his arm. Freak accident is what he had And whenever he's ready, I think the UFC will bring him in, and then throw in Loney Kavanaugh as well. Holy cow. That's a lot to be behind. So, and he's 32, and he seems like he doesn't want to fight forever. 32 is young. He's got a lot of mileage, a lot of rounds. In terms of title aspirations, it may have been catastrophic. Now, that said, Brandon is a superstar, especially in Mexico and all of Latin America. He's a fun fighter to watch. He really does throw down. This fight, not so much. But in other ones, man, it can get bloody. It can be nasty, grimy. And he's gotten the job done in most of them. Some he hasn't. But still, you don't look at Brandon Moreno and say, I'm going to go fill up my drink. I'll join the fight midway. Nothing like that. I mean, you're on the edge of your seat. He's pretty exciting. He's charismatic. He speaks both English and Spanish very well. He's beloved. And I think he's basically just got it. Like, I think the UFC loved having Brandon Moreno at the top. But see, that might be done. So it could be catastrophic in terms of that. Now, is it catastrophic in terms of his career? No. Because when you're a former champion, you'll probably headline fight nights, things like that. They'll always make room for you on a card. And the way back isn't as muddied. I know he made it sound that way with all those other fighters that have basically stepped in front of Brandon Moreno because of the setback and the previous one, the Taira. But when you're a former champ and you live in Las Vegas and you're maybe somewhat of a company man, all of a sudden things can open up for you if the timing's right. But what does that require? Probably a couple wins. 2 exciting wins. Like he had. He recently had a couple of exciting wins. When he took that break. Remember he took that break? Like it was like 10 months where he wanted nothing to do with anything. And everyone left him alone. No one interviewed him. It was after the Brandon Royval loss, which was another one of the ones in Mexico City that didn't go his way. Then he came back and basically beat Amir Albazi and Steve Erceg. Now, usually I like to say when someone got smoked, it's because they got finished. I thought he still smoked them both because he looked great. Like the time off was awesome. But now we got these other 2 losses, Taira and Kavanaugh. So what happens? I don't know. He just needs 2 of those good wins. And if the timing's right, some of these other guys are going to knock each other off. So even though there's 3, 4, 5 fighters ahead of you, some will fight each other. They'll get knocked off. You need to win. And in the meantime, get better at your deficiencies. You have amazing jiu-jitsu. Okay, how do we get there? Work on that wrestling. And I seem to say that a lot, but a lot of the strikers that reach a certain point where the fights aren't going their way because the other guy's stand-up is decent and you try and get the fight to the ground, but you can't because takedown defense always improves. You saw Brandon, he had Loney Kavanaugh up against the fence. He couldn't get him down. Kavanaugh was, ripped, strong base, quads, chest, arms, and Brandon just looked like he couldn't even move the guy. It's like a fire hydrant, And so I would say get stronger, keep on working on those techniques, maybe use leverage, judo tosses or something. But you do have amazing takedowns, or Brazilian jiu-jitsu, basically, and once you get it there, the other person's in trouble. You can always knock them down and then jump on them, but most of the time you want to just knock them out, right? So I don't know, but I think that needs to be addressed. Some time off, get a couple 3-rounders in. These 5-round wars, he's had a lot of them, and I was pointing out on the SBC, if you've had 10 of those, and most go to a decision, that's an extra 2 rounds that you're probably training for, but when you fight them, that could be an extra 20 rounds that you have on other flyweights, who have the same amount of fights as you, but maybe haven't been in title fights because it's an extra 10 minutes of fighting. So that's taxing. But he's 32. He can do it again. Who knows? All right, I'm going to bounce on out of here. But one thing I did want to do is I want to highlight the people that are special to me in my life on every episode. And it's just going to be a random generator type thing. So don't think this is in order of importance. Billy MacDonald. I am very happy for Billy MacDonald. He's really, really worked on himself. And the other day he sent me his latest picture. He looks so great, great smile and everything. But he's been a long time supporter of Tag Radio. I don't know why I chose him first. I could have chose my my mom, my brother, my dog, my girlfriend, whoever, right? But like I say, it's random. He popped into my head, so I want to acknowledge him, give him a shout out. Very cool person. I consider him a friend. He's a supporter of everything my brother and I have done, and he's a presence, with either sharing or just liking the stuff that I post, and it means a lot to me, so I wanted to share that. Now, I'm going to bounce on out of here. Do not just take up space on this planet, folks. Go out and be a champion. Go after your dreams. Don't let time go to waste like I did in starting this channel. All right? Be champions.